Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I get the opportunity to work on one of these projects. It's one of these Can This Reel Be Saved? And this one came from John in Arizona. And John has sent me what appears to be a shed find or something. I'm not sure, John. You can help me later with that. But this is an Ambassadeur 650 Plus. And you can already see that the line guide is kind of sliding, so not sure what's going on there. We have a skip in this reel, big skip, very difficult to turn. This does work in terms of that. And the 650 Plus, it's a nice reel, but interestingly enough, I worked on one of these reels a while ago, and the answer to can it be saved was no. So we're going to take this apart. We're going to see what's making this thing behave as it is, and we will try and get this one back out there fishing for John. Here you go. Interestingly enough, I just had a question from one of the fellows that wrote into my comment section, how do I get the handle off here with that screw in it? So I guess we'll show him as we do this as well. So I like to start by taking off the exterior pieces and parts. As I do that, I want to thank our first responders and essential personnel and everybody keeping us safe during the pandemic. For all it is that you do. That's fire, rescue, that's all of our uniformed services, that's our transit and municipal employees, and everybody in the hospitals, in the long-term care facilities, in the doctor's offices, and throughout the medical professions. What you're doing is truly heroic on a day-in, day-out basis. It really is appreciated, and I thank you for your efforts and for your continuing dedication. All right, I'm just trying to find a 10mm wrench to take the handle nut off. And then I'm going to remove the side plate, and we'll see what's going on there. This is a good place to tell you to take pictures along the way if you don't have the schematic, or have the schematic and take pictures along the way. Pictures provide a great reference point if you get stuck. And that usually is a good place to go when you're working on a reel you're not familiar with. You can see the sequence that you took the pieces and parts off in, and you can see what's going on in orientation and the like if you get stuck. So this is like every round bait casting reel. It seems that Abu's made. There's three, I call them thumb screws. We'll be able to pull that out now. Don't be afraid if the shaft comes out. There's a little device on the end of this shaft that kind of holds that. So we're going to take the star adjuster off by backing it off in a counterclockwise manner. At least we know the anti-reverse works because the shaft isn't spinning. So I'll take that off now. And then I'll show you that little clip that's holding that spool on. Sometimes it needs to be pried off, sometimes it just plain comes off. There we go. So this is our little clip that's holding the spool. Just take that, put it right back into the cap. And now the spool shaft can come out. And I generally like to put that spool shaft right back in. So I'm looking at this here. We're saying what's going on. This has got a flattened brake pad right here. We can see it. And what usually happens with that is that got trapped in the travel ring. And when it got trapped in the travel ring, it's almost impossible to steer. So let's see if we take this off. Brakes are there to help you control the spin of the reel and create a little bit of an anti-backlash effect. I'm just going to pull this off right now. It's kind of broken and shattered. Here it is. I'm going to put this right back on and see if anything spins differently. Well, among other things, we got something spinning, which is good. I'm not sure that's the answer to everything, but it sure as heck seems like the answer to a lot of it, right? Okay, well, we're going to rebuild this reel, and we'll come back, we'll do a little bit more work with that. So some folks are wondering how I'm going to fix that brake. Well, if I can't find a brake, here's a little bush fix for you. Take a nozzle from a spray can. That little hole in that nozzle is generally kind of about the same diameter as that little brake pad. Take a scissor, just cut a little section of that off like that, and you have a brake pad. if you want it. If you want it, you can run these reels without the brake pad. It's not essential to the actual operation of the reel. I'm going to remove the spool now. I'll take the back side of this off. And this one's really dirty, so we're going to work on getting this whole thing cleaned up. I'm just going to put the business end of this reel over on the side for a moment. Service this, clean this out a little bit, and do a complete service on this one for John. These reels have been around a long time. They've proven their durability, their strength, and their desirability in the marketplace. And most of these are made in China these days. This one happens to have been made in Sweden, so it's an older version of the reel. And the technology has changed a little bit, but the reels themselves have remained strong. 3 screws. We should be able to remove that side plate now. There we go. And before I do anything else, I'm just going to stop for a moment and I'm going to clean this case. I'm going to use a cleaner. This is Flitz Metal Pre-Clean. It should help us just get all of that off in a single squirt. So I'll be right back. Okay, that was just a few minutes of effort, and cleaned up all the dirt and grease and grime pretty quickly. I just buffed it off after a quick rinse. There's just a little bit left here on the some of that, so I'm just going to use a cotton swab here to kind of clean that up. But overall, it cleaned up all of the dirt and grease and grime to speak of. I also wanted to take that off because I want to check the line guide mechanism. I want to check the idler gear, and I want to check the back end of this. And here's our problem. A secondary problem here is that this idler gear has broken teeth. This should be consistently all around on this, and that idler gear is going to need to be replaced. So we're going to have to order that gear in order to move that along. This is the point where the idler gear is going to be driven by the spool gear here, and this little one is going to interface with the metal gear. So we have to go get a replacement part for this one before we can go much further. So we're going to pause the video here for that side. I'm just going to reinstall this. I'm going to come back and do that. But to reinstall, make sure that your button is down on this click mechanism here so that you can expose the hole where the side plate screw is going to go. Then you want to bring this so that you have the ABU facing the bottom of the reel, and visually set your side plate crossbar so that it goes behind that click rim. And if it doesn't match or doesn't merge right away, you might have a little seam here. Just go inside, roll that around, and you will get the piece for that. Just going to go ahead and put the screws back in. We'll go over to the other side. We'll see what we can do there. So somewhere along the line there was a confrontation between an immovable object and a bunch of fishing gear. And my guess is with this reel, somebody tried to power out of it by cranking the reel. When they cranked the reel, the weak point in this level wind system would be that idler gear where the plastic teeth meet the metal teeth, and the metal teeth won. So we'll come back. That's all right. They make these as replacement parts. They should make them as replacement parts. And we'll go find one. Now, ABU replacement parts are available through southwestparts.com. They're also available through eReplacement Parts. And up in Canada, they're available through Mike's Reel Repair. So if you need that kind of a support, it's there for you. And you should go ahead and do that. Just going to pull this up. There's a bushing there, not a bearing. I just wanted to check on that. You can put a drop of oil in there. Some of the ABU reels have bearings there. So if they do, make sure that you do the ordering of it. These are Teflon or nylon type of gears. They do not need grease and oil. We already talked about the brake. I guess if I have to go order the idler gear, I might as well go order the brake as well. We'll go ahead and put that back in. Set that aside. Let's come over to the business end of this reel. To answer John's question, I think the reel is certainly worth preserving. It seems that in all honesty, it's a minor issue, but it's one that you can't drive the line gear with it if you don't replace that part. Take the side plate out. I'm going to do the same thing on this side plate I just did on the other. You didn't see me with it, but I'm going to use a rod and reel cleaner. This is Penn's. Little squirt. I'm going to take care of the dust and dirt on this one. I use a kitchen scrubby, just a piece of that. It's a light abrasive pad. It's not going to ruin the finish on this reel. I'm just going to use that to move that rod and reel cleaner around. Get the old dirt and grease and chunk off of it. Just a little bit of elbow grease sort of thing. Put it on the side. I like it because it's not a real harsh chemical. It's a cleaner and a polish all in one. And that certainly does a nice job in a relatively short period of time. All right, let's see what's going on underneath. Well, underneath, as I mentioned, it just seemed like everything was right, and that's a beautiful interior side plate. I did not expect to see this at all when I opened it up, gauging by all of the other issues that seemed to be present in the reel. I thought we were in for a real shock here, but we're not. This is, it hardly looks fished. It's bright brass, clean. If anything, there's a little bit of dried grease in there. All right, let's go ahead and take it off then. We already removed the screw, so this whole assembly can come off. This has got one of these reverse feeler kind of tension pieces. We have an anti-reverse. There's a forked anti-reverse. Oh, that's not the forked one. I'm sorry. This is going to act as the anti-reverse underneath that. And then we've got the gear set. Let's go ahead and pull these off. Note this is a good place to take a picture. What do you have here? You have 2 tension washers. Then you have a collar. Then you have the drag stack. This should just push off. And then we're just going to check underneath the drag stack. I don't expect to find anything here because it's so clean in here. We have hard washers. They don't need anything. This has got oil on them. So you have a hard body for the main gear. Next up will be the hard washer number 1. You have a round, or what's called a keyed washer is second. That grabs the shaft. You have a round hard washer second. Then you have what's called the eared washer. That sits in the cavities of the main gear like that. I just did one of these where that wasn't the case. And the person wasn't getting any drag pressure. Well, it wasn't getting any drag pressure because it was impossible to tighten down on that because the ears were out of the way. I'm going to use some reel grease now on that shaft. I'm going to go ahead and reinstall. Make sure that that comes under. I'm going to put our first part of that drag washer stack on. And if you're wondering why I didn't put the second part on, it's because these two will be easier to put on once it's on that shaft. All right, I was ready to put that on, but I want to take the free spool release mechanism off, and I want to make sure that the pinion gear and everything underneath it is clean. So you remove this, then you remove your plastic part here. Now on this one, there's a ramp here. This is a snap-in piece. There's a ramp. You'll see it when you look at it. That's the inside part of this. If you get confused, if you've laid the piece down, if you're wondering. This is your pinion gear, and it has a slot on your pinion gear that faces in. That's going to accept the shaft of the spool. So I'll go ahead and put a little bit of grease onto the teeth side. Get a little bit in that channel. It's going to spin in that plastic part. Go ahead and find the inside that way, and then just kind of snap it back in. That's your service of your pinion gear. Note this little swing spring. Say that fast. Notice the orientation on that. I'm going to pull this assembly up just to clean it off. There's 3 pieces here. We'll take them all off just for fun. Might as well take this thing off too. So this is your basic assembly with your anti-reverse dog sitting over here on the side. You want to clean that off. A paper towel should be fine. If you find that you've got some sticky glue or residue or something on there, well then go ahead and use a light cleaner like a penetrating oil or the like. All right, I'm going to swing that back down. First up is this assembly, which is going to guide it. That goes on the post over here. Next up is the free spool release. That's going to ride over the stud here. Last up then is the jack, which is going to be pushed down. It's going to elevate the yoke to go in the free spool, and then it's going to trip back with the other piece. So once you put that jack in play, bring the spring over, then you can set the little cluster there, whatever that cluster is called. I'm going to just swing this out of the way for a moment. Now we can go ahead and put that main gear back on, but before I do that, I'm going to put a little bit of grease into the teeth of the main gear. And that'll help keep this lubricated for a long time. So this looked and felt new. It has dried grease in it. This is not the cause of why this is not working. We saw that on the other side when we took the assembly apart, that the problem was really with the, I got ahead of myself. I want to put the pinion gear back in. Those fit over the post. Then I want to close this down. This has got 2 posts that it rides on. And then you want to make sure that you've got extended out there. Now we can go do this again. I tend to get ahead of myself sometimes. Make sure that that's in its right place. Hard washer. Cap washer. Collar. Then these are opposing. They're concave. You can set them up any way you like. I generally put them face to face. You can nest them, you can go opposed. That's all about the tension on the star adjuster. Right, at this point we can give it a spin, make sure that it's spinning easy, which it is. There's nothing going on the side plate here, so we can just grab that side plate that we've cleaned. Put that over the top. Whoops. Got that reverse tucked in there. And then when you go to put this in, make sure that you're clearing that little indentation on that free spool release before you tighten that down. Going over to my parts tray to get the 2 pieces here. And what I think we're going to find when we get done with all of this, we're going to put it all back together again. We're going to turn it. I think we'll see that it's turning smoothly, and the only problem is that you don't have a level wind feature because we have the broken teeth in that idler gear. I think we identified that the brake pad got trapped, and that was why it became problematic later, but that wasn't the cause of the issue initially. All right, this is back on now. We want to go ahead and put our star adjuster back on. And I'm pretty sure you can put that bridge screw in right now. And I'm holding the bottom of the shaft with my finger just to make sure that it can tighten down. I'll go grab it with the smaller pliers now just to get another piece or 2, and then you can come up top if you get stuck with it. Sometimes you just get lucky, you're able to spin it along the whole way. All right, I'm going to grab my handle to use as the key to hold this now. There we go. Okay. Got that back. We're going to take this, put a little bit of grease onto the axle shaft. Reinstall. That went on easy enough. You want to check the brake. The brake is liable to get trapped again. We know we're down 1 brake. I'm going to take the handle or the gear shaft screw, put that back in. And the handle goes on next. Oh, before I do that, I want to grab that tensioner button. It's going to be harder to do if you try to do that with the handle on. And you could have put that on ahead of the star adjuster too if you wanted to. Handle, tension spring, handle, handle nut. Again, start that by hand. You don't want to injure that by cross stripping it. So if you like these kinds of videos, I'm going to ask you to subscribe. If you do subscribe, please hit the notifications. And if you have a question about this reel or any reel in particular, leave that in the comment section. I will try and answer your questions promptly. I try to do those in the morning before I get started in my shop. Every now and then I have to skip some time if I'm in a rush to do something, but I do try to get back to you. If you're stuck on a reel, leave that question. We'll see what we can do. All right, I'm not quite sure what's going to happen with this reel. Let's push the free spool in first and see if we got a spinning spool. We do. It's nice and quiet. We have a release. And here's where that issue is going to come with that bad idler gear. So I'm going to just back this off. Kind of take that out of play for a moment. Now, if you were just servicing this reel, if you didn't have any parts to replace or the like, then what you would do is certainly is you would pull the pawl like we're doing here. I'm pulling it now because if it did get damaged, I want to order a replacement at the same time I ordered a replacement on the and I think I'm going to, this one side looks lower than the other. I'll put that in here for a moment. Let's give this reel a spin then. So there you go. This reel is working fine, other than the erratic drive on this worm gear, and that's caused by that idler gear. So to answer John's question, this reel is worth saving, getting it a second chance. We're going to go out and order that idler gear, and that's going to bring this one back into the condition that it should be. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have a reel that would be repaired like John, if you send an email to me on the business card address that follows, I will be happy to provide you with reel repair information. So please stay safe, stay well, stay watching, and have a great day. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle.